So, Danny, you have been doing a lot of trampoline recently. That's pretty much become your life. Paperwork and
Yeah,
paperwork and
yes, yes.
more paperwork. How do you stay motivated when it's kind of when you're in the monotony of it? When you were doing kind of when you were doing YouTube, which you still probably are, but
Yes,
obviously,
yeah, I am.
like like when you were doing YouTube, if it was just YouTube, you there is a lot of variety. You can do different videos. The actions are similar, but there's always a different topic. There's new things to research. But this is more of a traditional job,
Yeah.
capital O, capital B. How like how do you stay motivated in that?
I mean, there's lots of different answers for the different contexts of situations, of course. But yes, the trampoline, Eastbourne Trampoline is certainly more of a corporate traditional 9 to 5-ish
Hmm.
job. It's not a 9 to 5 because it is my own business sort of thing. But I have to work. Yeah, I have
Okay.
to have to work with all the legal barriers. Lots of paperwork. For example, safeguarding. I need safeguarding. Other people need safeguarding. DBS checks, enhanced DBS checks, barring lists.
Oh,
Then you
there we
need
go.
policies for welfare, policies for health and safety, policies for everything you can think of when it comes to individuals doing any sort of activity. So there's lots of paperwork there. Then you need to be able to show it. You need to be able to proofread it. People need the right pieces of paper for all of those things plus facility, etc., 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 etc. The list goes on and on and on. A lot of those things aren't all under my control. So, for example, welfare officer for Eastbourne Trampoline can't be a member of the coaching team or a relation of the coaching team because obviously then you've got issues with conflicts of interest. So I needed to find someone else. And that's relying on someone else to, one, willing to do the hours of the course, two, willing to actually be the welfare officer if child or parent or carer or adult has issue, are they okay talking to them? And then three, are they okay being like a name and face on paperwork? So finding that person, that was a lot of, it's not just oh, I just go tick that box off. There's lots of things that you got to do, looking around for lots of people, talking to lots of people, navigating spaces, etc. So the way that I treat all of these, I say little tasks, they're not little tasks. Like finding a welfare officer is a massive task, but I see them as small tasks on my calendar. So on my calendar, it was talk to this person, talk to that person, go view this thing. So I met with basically every sports club that I could think of locally that relates to gymnastics. And that's what was motivating. It wasn't oh, I need to find a welfare officer. It was, I want to talk to other gymnastics coaches. So I went to 3 gymnastics clubs, I went to other sports clubs to learn what I could from those people. So even though the main motivation was I need to find a welfare officer, the secondary motivation is why I did the thing. I want to
Hmm.
learn from these people and maybe they can help me. That's how I treat most of those tasks. It's finding something that I'm interested in, finding a secondary reason to go do the thing rather than just the one, I got to get this done. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. And have you ever experienced it so far that you just can't find it?
No. As in secondary reason, no.
Hmm.
I've always found a secondary reason for why I'm going to go do the thing. And if I struggle to find a secondary reason to go do the thing, I ask myself if the thing is really that important. Because when it comes, for example, safeguarding policies, that's very boring. So what is my secondary reason for doing safeguarding policies? Those from British Gymnastics, please don't listen to this bit, but I'm reading the safeguards policies and understanding them so I can work out what insurance I need or don't need to do the activities that I find more exciting. Because if British Gymnastics doesn't insure certain individuals or certain activities and is not covered through safeguarding policies and procedures, then maybe I can go elsewhere, which means I can then do the things that are fun. So the secondary reason is, oh, actually, does this safeguarding policy let me do these things? Because if it does let me do these things, I can do it. And then when people say, "Oh, you're not covered," I can say, "Actually, we are because I read through this policy," which I know sounds a bit odd, but I spent 4 hours yesterday reading through other trampoline clubs' uh, health and safety policies because I wanted to see what they did, and I found out that some of them are extremely outdated. Like one of them, I'm not going to name names, but one of them I read through and they said, we regularly review our health and safety policy and update it accordingly. Last updated, March 2018. Yeah. So,
Ooh.
right, well,
Oops.
that's 6 years out of date. And the policy is out of date. When you look at the new British gymnastics policies, they have an old version. But yeah, so it's not like a I got you sort of thing, but it does make it a bit fun for me. I know it sounds really obscure, but it makes it fun for me to go, ha, got you, you're out of date. I know it's a bit of a weird thing, but
It's almost like a game, I
yeah,
suppose.
it's like a catcher sort of thing. And the reason I find this interesting is when like moving forwards 3 or 4 stages, when I have conversations with individuals, and this is why I think I'm quite um I don't want to sound boastful, but I'm quite good in arguments and discussions. I have a lot of evidence, I have a lot of points to be made. And because I find these games fun for me, when I'm having a discussion with a welfare officer or someone in safeguarding or a parent, I can say, well, that club over here did it this has this old version. That club over here doesn't actually use this one. British Gymnastics have recently updated their thing to here. So this point that you're trying to make is redundant in all three of those cases. So why are you enforcing your ideology on me when I'm actually doing this, 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 and this, which is different from those three places? That, in arguments, is really useful. But how do you get to that stage? Making it fun in the process beforehand. I recognize I'm trying to make reading legal documents fun, but it is for me. That's how I do it. So that's how I stay motivated doing the what could be perceived as boring tasks. And I guess the small narcissist in me likes knowing the information so I can say, ha, I know more than you. But yeah, and
But
I'm open to that. I know I'm a smart ass. I know I like knowing stuff that others don't.
that is so fascinating. That is really
I
fascinating.
assume you have other questions.
I'm just trying to pick one. I'm like, I've got all of them here.
Yeah,
And what I really liked was because I don't know whether it is narcissism or not, but I'm not quite sure whether it is that. But you definitely like it's almost like you were taking what you did with the research because you researched heavy papers, massive papers,
I,
and you okay, we'll put that in a we'll come back to that in a second. But like it's almost like you're using it's as if you're using the skills you've developed over the last X amount of years in a new context, which I think is
that's
really
that's
important.
ecology.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I brought it
That's
up.
taking an
I'm
ecological
like,
approach, though.
that right there is so important because most of the time when I'm talking to people, especially in the business world, it's not like that. It's like, well, how do I do this skill? I was talking to I was helping my son. He came to me and was like, "Oh, I want to learn piano." I'm like, "Okay, cool. We can go. We can." I used to teach all of them, guitar and piano and all of that stuff. So I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure. We'll sit down." And I was like, "What do you want to learn?" "I don't know." I'm like, "Okay." Well, then what are we going to do together then? Because it was very much like he was waiting for me to teach him
Hmm.
and tell him what to play. And so when I was like, okay, so what about this? So what would you like to play? What think of any song that you would really like to play? Oh, the German national anthem. Okay, cool. So I opened up because also prerequisite, I know he's got good what's known as relative pitch. So he can hear a song and start playing it. Takes him a little while because he hasn't trained it, but he has that
Hmm.
natural ear because
Recognition. Yeah.
yeah, he has that recognition. So I'm like, okay, cool. Oh, well, where do I start? I don't know where to start. Okay, well, sing it because you can vote because it's almost like coming from inside of your body out into the world.
Embodied cognition.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like sing it. And then he sang it. And I'm like, right, find the note. Go on, find it. Oh, well, can't you just tell me the note? I'm like, yeah, I could, but that's not the point because how did you learn all these other things? Unfortunately, I discovered that my wonderful Pitch Perfect friend who has been here before has actually just given him the notes. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to stop that immediately. I'd like him to find the notes. Do not interrupt my practice design,
Yes.
which was really funny. And so
The difference between giving answers and letting them figure that out.
yeah, yeah, because that's the thing, because that's something that I've noticed that Aiden really struggles with. It's not being given the answers. I mean, who doesn't when you're not used to it? But that is one of it,
Even
because of course,
the thing is,
school.
everyone, I like even myself,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
everyone wants answers because obviously they don't like problems. But if you're used to problem solving, if you develop that skill, those skills, because there's not one, but if you develop those skills and the ability to problem solve, you become a better learner. You can learn lots of different things. You see people all over the internet learning different things by themselves. Now, yes, they're learning it by themselves, but they've developed problem solving skills.
yeah. Which is basically
Everyone has
self.
those skills. It's just they don't tend to use them.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because for me, there was no guitar teacher. So when I learned to play an instrument, I just picked up the guitar and taught myself and watched a video and problem solved the whole entire time because I like solving problems. They're fun. I
But
think that's what motivates that there, just solving a problem that I care about, that interests me.
that second bit, it's the
Yeah.
second bit because everyone likes solving problems. When you look at the fun factors in research of anything really, but in sports specifically, because I'm doing some research on that at the moment, trying hard, making mistakes, being able to make mistakes, problem solving, learning, improving, they are all things that everyone wants to do, irrespective of any categorization that we can put on people.
Yeah.
So problem solving is what people want to do. It's whether they want to solve the problem or
Mm,
not. Like if it's a problem that they don't care about in any way, it's not relative to them, it
they
doesn't
won't do
help
it.
them. Like
Mm,
why would I solve the problem? Like why would I solve a problem for someone else in a house that doesn't relate to me in any way? Like
mm.
I would just need to be extremely generous or very bored to do that. Get fed up of whatever it is that I'm doing
Yeah.
because we are organisms. We are looking to survive ourselves. And so I think all of us problem solve. All of us want to problem solve. All of us do problem solve, assuming the environment is conducive to us to learn in that situation, which is what the
Yeah.
coaches I think are there to do. Create practice design for individuals to problem solve. If the problem solving is too difficult, i.e., you with your son and your son going, I don't know what to learn. Well, constrain the problem. Constrain like task simplification, constrain the situation.
What's this one note? Listen to this note. Sing.
Precisely.
Okay, now find that one note. Keep singing that note and find that one note. And slowly but surely,
Hmm.
found the first note, found the second note, found the next, and it was yeah, and he got there.
But that's where I think the research, as you mentioned earlier, the research and all of the work that I'm doing at the moment, the skills are still transferable because I'm still problem solving.
Yeah,
There is almost no difference with what it is that I'm doing. If you look from an outside, like with research, I search for something, I read it, then I write about the thing whilst I'm thinking about the thing to try and solve a problem. But that's everything that humans do when it comes to paper documents. The only difference being, instead of me making a video about the research, I'm doing the research. I'm putting
yeah,
the words in practice. I'm making sure that there are warnings for individuals when they go to trampoline that, hey, this is a health and safety risk. This is a risk assessment. Coaches make sure that this happens and this doesn't happen. Make sure they don't have piercings all over their face when they do a front landing because they could rip their face to pieces. Like the obvious things that coaches know, but having it, I see your face, you're like, oh yeah, that's why piercings get taken out, everyone. Yeah,
yeah.
that's that's the health and safety stuff that us as
What about
coaches
But
recognize.
now I'm just intrigued. What about like derma punches then?
Elaborate, please.
The people who have actual massive holes in their ears and like rings in there, like not rings, sorry, like
It's according to British, again, it depends on the insurance policies. According to British Gymnastics, that's unsafe, so you can't do it. So you have to take the plastic ring, whatever is in the ear, out. But then, if you wanted to, you could tape it up. Be a lot of tape in some situations. Yeah, a whole roll. But if it's again, depending on the place that you're in, the facility that you're in, you can do it depending on the trampoline, because if you've got a trampoline bed, or you've got a mesh bed, so there's like no holes in the bed, then it's not really dangerous because you're not going to get anything caught. If it's a bigger bed, then you're more likely to get it caught. It's the same with any sort of piercings. I mean, you're meant to tape up earrings and take earrings out, but I know lots of people that compete with earrings and necklaces on. So it's,
Necklaces.
well, yeah, when you go to other countries, they're doing stuff with necklaces, piercings, yeah, rings as well. So it's all over the place in different countries. So yeah, it's
I mean,
different.
I can sort of understand a small, tiny like earring, like a little bud, maybe, but
No, I've seen like proper like flaily, like feather flaily earrings on some of the girls over in Portugal. They weren't from Portugal, I can't remember what country, but yeah, the flaily earrings. Then you get like headdresses and then big costumes. People jump in those as well, just for like fun sorts of things. Or like when you look at in the circus, like they're wearing costumes as well. At Cirque du Soleil, they're not wearing big costumes because they're doing big skills, and you can't wear costumes with big skills; it gets in the way. But you see like
yeah.
the dinosaur costumes and them jumping around trampolines. So yeah, whenever it comes to anything on a trampoline, it's very dependent on the insurance, the country, the context. Like, is it circus? Is it competition? Is it recreational? Like, where does it fall under in this human categorization that we've put for health and safety? Which is obviously a whole legal battle. But in an ideal world, they don't get injured, so you don't do something stupid with the individual, or the individual isn't stupid in the first place. And then if they do hurt themselves, and the parent or the carer recognizes actually that person shouldn't have done that. Like in a situation where I read about, they were at a ninja arena park thing. I read about this in the news, and the child basically ran straight headfirst into the wall, and then they broke their arm when they fell back. And the parent tried to sue the gym players, and you're like, yeah, but the child did something stupid. Like,
Sorry, ran headfirst into a wall, as in an actual solid wall, or the or a
well, no, no,
trampoline.
no. On like in like the arena, there's like foam walls and stuff, like bouncy castle foam wall sort of thing. But in the middle of the venue, there was this foam wall. Well, it was a wall, but it was like padded, like big foam pads.
Yeah.
And I imagine the child just thought, I'm going to run headfirst into this big foam wall. Um, Children. um, and obviously they hit the wall. The wall didn't move, and then they fell backwards. And as they fell backwards, they put their arm back, and they broke their arm. And the parents then sued the place because it wasn't safe. And you're like, yeah, but the kid ran into a wall, fell backwards because they lost awareness of where they were and broke their arm from falling backwards. You know, like, what do you want us to do? Run in and tackle the kid while they're running into a head first into a wall? Like, how do you prevent that? It's soft, it's foam, it's bouncy. Like, you've got people watching it, but it takes like what, a second, maybe two, for the kid to run 3 or 4 steps into a wall, headbutt and fall back. You know, like Superman jumping reaction time. No, it's not going to happen. Oh, they didn't get the suit. But yeah, those
Oh,
sorts.
that is such a surprise.
Yeah, but those sorts of things you need to be prepared for as a business organization when it comes to activities like this. Um, our situation is going to be far more controlled because we've got one trampoline, 3 people on one trampoline, rather than, I don't know, 20 on 50 trampolines on the floor, pointing at
God.
trampoline parks. Um, but yeah, question for you.
Yeah.
Because I have a video coming out soon, because I'm still doing video stuff on warm-ups. When you think of a warm-up, oh, excuse me. When you think of a warm-up in sports coaching, activity, physical activity, going to the gym, what do you think of when you think warm-up?
Stretching.
I knew that was coming. Anything else?
No.
No. Does pulse raiser come to mind?
No.
Do you no? Okay. Because when I was at school,
I will remind you, you are talking to someone who is not
no, that's why I asked.
marginally like
You're not active. You're an inactive individual.
yeah.
Yeah, at school through like GCSE PE, it was you need to do a pulse raiser, so run around. You need to do your stretching, i.e., stretch, and then you need to do your sports specific activities or movements, right? So some sort of related game to the activity, but sports specific activities is very loose. Like some people say, oh, shuttle runs is like football. No, it's just running. Yeah, exactly. Your face says it all. But
This is
yeah,
from a non-active individual who does not think a shuttle run it just sucks.
yeah, that's
But it's
strength and
not
conditioning.
football relating. No.
Well, it's running. Uh, yeah. So those are
So
like
it's
the
walking. Walking is just slow running.
exactly my point. But yeah, so traditional traditional warm-ups are some sort of pulse raiser, so running around a field or doing shuttle runs or doing follow the leader or going backwards and forwards, like whatever, and then playing games like tag or stuck in the mud, those sorts of things. There are millions of games out there for pulse raisers. Basically, the idea is to get your heart rate up to increase the muscle temperature, increase respiration rate, and all the other physiological adaptations that happen when you start moving. Stretching is static and dynamic. You sit down, touch your toes, or stand up, touch your toes, as an obvious example of a static stretch. Dynamic stretching when you're swinging your leg backwards and forwards, or you're doing the open the gate and close the gate rubbish, where you put your knee up in a 90-degree angle and you move it out and then you bring it back down, or do like lunges, those sort of dynamic stretches ish. And when you look at the research, they do something very similar. Of course, because it's scientific research, they can't use the same word, so they use a RAMP protocol. RAMP. Yep. So raise, pulse raiser. Activate and mobilize, stretch. And then potentiate, sports specific movement. But RAMP
Yes, the
protocol
M.
sounds better. Mobilize.
Oh, mobilize. Sorry, you said
Activate and mobilize.
yeah, that was confusing.
Yeah, it is slightly different when you get into the nuances of what it actually entails,
That
because
ramp then, not ramp.
but the RAM, or the pulse raiser and stretching, when I think about those things, I'm like, okay, at school, at lunchtime, I went out and played football. I didn't do a warm up. At home, when we had a garden trampoline, I went out and went on a garden trampoline. I didn't do a warm up. At university, when I went onto the court to play handball, I picked up a ball and threw a ball in the goal. I didn't do a warm up. And when you look at most other people, they don't do warm ups either. But what they do is sports specific activities. They start simple. Like when I went out onto the playground when I was younger, we didn't just go straight into a game. We'd kick a ball around between us for a couple of minutes. Or while we're sorting out the teams, we'd run around and try and get the ball and mess around, sort of thing. On the garden trampoline, I wouldn't get on and do a routine straight away. I'd do some shape jumps, some landings. In handball, I'd throw the ball at an empty goal. I wouldn't bother running and jumping and trying to do like fancy stuff to. No, I would task simplify. I would do something simple and building up intensity, which makes me think, okay, so what is the warm up? Where is the warm up? What are we classifying as a warm up? And the reason I ask this to you is because we've discussed warm-ups previously,
Yeah.
and my understanding of a warm-up is different from the traditional warm-up. And the more I've looked into sports coaching, their warm-up is not what I think of as a warm-up.
Oh, interesting.
Because when I said warm-up, you said stretching.
Yeah, but that's not. It's just. Isn't it just task simplification?
That's what I see as warm-up, because
Yeah.
ecologically, we're talking about individuals that are consistently moving.
Yeah.
So we're picking a measured time frame of start of session, end of session. Like, we need to warm. Yeah, but what does warm up mean? Can't it just be the increased activity of an individual specific to a movement?
Yeah.
Which trampoline, football, basketball, boxing, just
Yeah.
rather than you got to run around now, you got to do a relay race now, you got to sit down and touch your toes now. Like, no. And if it is that, then instead of asking, what's an effective warm-up? It's now asking, what is effective practice design?
That is such a shock. I didn't see that coming.
I think there's a difference between practice design and warm-up, because warm-up is something you do at the start.
Yeah, whereas a practice design is
Consistent. It's consistently developing as individuals develop. Because I can't imagine, I know you've done PE at some point. I can't imagine a session being, right, we're going to do a warm-up, then we're going to do a drill, then we're going to do a warm-up, then we're going to do a drill, then we're going to do a warm-up, then we're going to do no, it doesn't happen. You do the warm-up, then you do lots of different drills, and then a game, or maybe a couple of games, or however you want to define it, and then a conclusion at the end. So if you
And
don't
then a
need
cool down.
don't get me started. Don't get me started. I ain't done that video yet.
I know, that's why I mentioned it outside. Let's vote.
If we don't do a warm-up before drills, if we've already done a drill before it, why do we need to do a warm-up? Especially if, one, it's a hot day or in your hot country. Two, you've just come from school where you've been active most of the day, potentially. And like if we're talking like after school club, if they've been active, or if they've come from another sport, or if the person is normally active. Like if you, talking from experience here, you have 6, 7-year-olds turn up to an AstroTurf. What are they going to do before the football session? They're not going to sit down and wait patiently. They're going to be playing tag. They're going to be running around. They're going to be fidgeting. They're not going to sit still. So why do you need to do a warm-up? Why do you need to say, okay, let's play tag? Because they've already been doing that. Or if there's space, they will be running around doing who knows what imaginary game thing. Like you see kids all the time chasing butterflies, chasing flies, or playing imaginary something, because those individuals are typically more active. If they're less active, then maybe you do what I would say, a simplified version of the sport, not a warm-up. Like I wouldn't get using some labels. If I have some diagnosed ASD individuals that are typically inactive, I'm not going to get them on a trampoline and doing some high jumps straight away. That makes no sense, because practice design, organism environment relationship, is the organism prepared to complete these tasks in this environment? No. Physically, they are not ready. And when I say physically they're not ready, that means the organism's not ready.
Not just it's all
It's
of the
not just
parts of the
heart
organism.
rate.
It's not just the physical attributes. It's that, if you wish to put a label on it, the mental attributes, because they may not want to do that yet. They may not understand why they've got to do that yet. They may not
They don't feel comfortable.
They don't feel comfortable. They don't feel safe, and no one's going to do nothing if they don't feel safe.
And that is the cherry on top when we're talking ecologically, because all of the
We all
people,
want to feel safe, yes.
yeah, but all of the people that I've seen and read about warm-ups is, as long as the individual feels prepared for the activity, both physically and psychologically, feel prepared. Organism environment relationship. Organism feel prepared.
I did not expect that.
So it doesn't matter if you do the best warm-up in the world to get them physically active. How do you get them psychologically prepared? Oh, you need to do sport-specific movements. So why not just do that to start with? Why not get the individual that is inactive ASD on a trampoline and just walking around on it? Is that a warm-up? Well, no, because they're not getting physically active. They're not increasing their heart rate. No, but it's task simplification, because for them, they might not be jumping really high in the middle of the trampoline for their practice design. Their practice design might be get comfortable with trampoline. Like, can that be skill development? I think so.
Yeah.
I've worked with some teachers. I've worked with some people that are now teachers in schools that where in the PE lessons, the focus is learning how to lose.
Yes.
So the lesson has almost nothing to do with sport-specific skills. It's to do with learning how to lose. Now, bearing in mind, this was kind of like a jokey conversation, but I was talking with him because we played handball together at uni. And I was talking with him and I was saying, wait, let me guess, you do. So he, as the coach, as the teacher, plays against the kids. Now, he is a physically able, pretty competent sports person, playing sports against children half his age, sometimes a little bit younger, that hate losing. And he tries his hardest. So they lose all the way through the lesson. But the entire lesson is the kids losing. Now, when you look at that from a traditional sports coaching perspective, they don't do a warm-up. The adult is doing the sport, not the children, so it's not specific to what it's going to see in competition. The child is seeing loads and loads of failure. There's not positive reinforcement. Oh, keep going, because you're trying to help the individual manage their emotions in the losing situation. Now, of course, there's going to be management of that. It's not just going to be throwing them under the bus the whole time. There will be managing and helping the individual work through that situation. Okay, but what can we do next time? What can you try next time that might improve you in some way, whether that is the individual's response. So instead of hitting the wall or headbutting the floor or doing something that would be detrimental, what can you do instead? Focus the energy on throwing the ball harder, or whatever it is, hitting the ball harder with the bat, whatever that is. So it's about channeling the behavior towards something more productive. That as a session target, how do you warm up for that? Traditional sports coaches, I don't think, have a warm up for that. It's practice design. It's continuing the developing behavior of the individual. So why do we need a warm up, traditional warm up in sports sessions? I don't think we do. I warm up, yes, but warm up for me is task simplification of the practice design. So when we're talking about periodization on a calendar, as we mentioned a few weeks back, which is why I brought it up for you, what is a warm up? Task simplification. But task simplification isn't always a warm up, which is why I feel like a warm up is almost a redundant term to use now.
Yeah, I can see why. Makes sense.
Why use warm up if we can use strength and conditioning?
Because people don't know what strength and conditioning means.
Strengthening and conditioning the individual. Like it says it in the name. Yeah, strength and conditioning involves anything that enhances a body physically to do movement. Which is what a lot of warm-ups try and do. So instead of warm-up, I would argue you could do strength and conditioning before a session, and rephrasing that, I think, helps shift the narrative away from, oh, you need to be prepared to do a warm-up before activity. One of the myths about, I say myths, one of the ill-supported arguments for doing a warm-up is that it you can see me fiddling around with words, can't you?
I did kind of enjoy that one then.
Yeah, ill-supported arguments about warm-ups is that it prevents injury. Doing a warm-up does not prevent injury. It can help with performance, which could lead to a reduction in the likelihood of being injured.
But that's a whole lot more words.
But yeah, that's really nuanced. Like, you'd need to do a warm-up at a certain maximum level if you're looking for power or strength in this type of movement. But now you're moving into sport-specific stuff. It's like, if you
So why not just do the sport specific stuff?
Exactly. But there's no negative effect of doing a warm-up on performance. So people do it. But yeah, I mean, you can look into the science and the rest of it, but it really doesn't prevent injury. And in some cases, it actually encourages injury because they do a warm-up too intense. So they actually get hurt and injured in warm-up. That happens in participation and performance sport. So the warm-up prevents injury. But our number one left back just got injured during warm-up. You might have seen that if you've watched sport, like so-and-so got injured during warm-up. So-and-so hurt themselves during warm-up. You're like, warm-up doesn't prevent injury then, does it? And then if the warm-up is too intense, or the individual is already fatigued, and then the warm-up fatigues them more, well, now they're fatigued going into the session. A fatigued individual going into a session is more likely going to result in reduced performance. And if you're doing high quality skills that requires like high levels of performance and you're fatigued, you're more likely to mess it up because you're tired. That increases the chance of injury. So warm-up could increase chance of injury if it increases fatigue levels too much. So is warm-up really that important? Is warm-up really going to help reduce injury risk? Strength and conditioning. If you're doing strength and conditioning, how would you periodize a session? Well, you're not going to do skills at the end of a session once you've added lots of fatigue, unless that's the focus of the session, because it doesn't make sense to do that. You're not going to do your one rep max back squat having done like 3x20 lunges weighted. Like, that just doesn't make any sense for a program. Practice design in the gym. So if the strength and conditioning is looked at as a practice design throughout the session, it just makes more sense. I recognize I'm just ranting about some of the research and some of the things I've been looking at. So John, do you want to add some thoughts or disagreements or comments or just something so it's not me?
Yeah, I could do that. It's something you were talking about earlier. So one of the things that I've been doing at the moment. So there is a trigger warning for weight and dieting and that kind of subjects because that is really sensitive to some people. So please go away if any of this topic is sensitive for you. Please go away. One of the things that I've been struggling with is my health. So I'm like, I want to be more like I want to look how I want to look and feel good about how I look. And so I want to improve my diet and what I'm eating and lose a little bit of weight and all of that stuff. And for so long, it's like I used to just throw myself into every single like idea and plan and tracking this and tracking that and tracking this and tracking that and doing this and doing that. And then I got overwhelmed incredibly quickly, gave up because it was too much. So task simplification, I remembered something you said. Now, whether I've misunderstood what you said, and just with a very little bit of, I wouldn't call it research, but just trying to think about what's important, my understanding is to start with, it's the stuff you put in, or the calories, and the protein. That's a good place to start. They're two things to start with. So that's what I've been doing. And it was really interesting because I started talking about it very lightly with family, and they're like, oh, don't count calories, it's dangerous. It's like, yeah, but I don't have a relationship. Like if I have too many calories, I have too many calories. I mess up. It's fine. I don't really care. I don't care enough that I would go into a spiral. I'm being, as someone said it, I'm being a scientist, not like there's no emotion. I just want to know that I'm getting the right amount of protein because I feel like I'm always hungry all the time, but I'm eating tons and I'm not happy. So I'm going to do something about it. And so
Yeah,
I'm
there's a
looking.
couple of things in that. I think the first one would be when you say healthy, what does healthy mean to you?
One, looking the way that I want to look, lose a little bit of gut, just like that's not healthy, but just it's a visual thing.
Right.
Being able to be a little bit more physically active and less tired. I think less tired is the big one. Less tired, more sustained, and not just the way I feel now, which is hard to explain.
Yeah, I think intrinsically, most individuals have an embodied feeling of what healthy
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
But
I can't fully define it. That's the thing.
but that's the thing,
I'll
most
know.
people can't. When
Yeah.
when they try and say, "Oh, you're healthy" or "You're not healthy," it's immediately aesthetics that they go to.
Hmm.
It's skin
But
color, it's
it's
size,
not.
it's no, no, it's not. It's how the individual feels, which I
Yeah.
think blurs the line with
Hmm.
metrics. Like there are things, if you are morbidly obese, you are less healthy
Yeah.
because you're more likely to have XYZ issues in future. But it doesn't mean you're unhealthy. It just means you're
Hmm.
not as healthy as someone else in comparison.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, as we mentioned before, labels, meanings are in people, not words. And labels are very, I don't like them. So,
No.
no.
That is a big surprise. I thought you were a big fan of labels.
So when you say healthy, I wouldn't look at trying to be healthy.
Mm.
I wouldn't set that being a goal because I don't think it's a goal you can actually achieve.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the way I would try and look at it is, okay, what skills do you want to develop?
All of them.
Speaking ecologically, what skills do you want to develop? What behaviors do you want to be able to do, elicit? Well, what feelings are you striving for?
Um, I suppose one of them is to feel more fulfilled when I'm eating is a good one. Like the
Mhm.
food that I'm eating is
Like
actually feels like,
satiation.
yeah, thank you. Satiation. I actually want to feel satiated when I eat my food instead of still hungry and then doing other things and stuff like that. And then just a little bit more energy would be nice. So a little bit more energy would be very nice.
So speaking ecologically, what are we doing now in the
I
conversation?
in the conversation, cool. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure because I was like in multiple layers at the same time.
Uh,
But this would be practice design.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's practice design, but what part of the practice design are we discussing? Like
I suppose it'd be
what are you
with
doing?
I suppose adding the constraints. It would be the constraints that I'm adding.
Sort of. It's not necessarily
Well,
constraints
no,
because we
it's the
haven't.
goal, isn't it? It's the goal directed behavior. What behaviors do I want to
Yeah.
do? Where am I heading?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
It
is an it
it's
is
goal
an
setting, but it's attuning the focus to specifying information.
yeah, yeah, it's to feel more sustained, make sure that I am fueling my body in a way where it feels good.
So
Which,
that's the difference though.
mm,
Ecologically speaking, we're attuning your focus to the feeling of satiation. Like
yeah,
that's the ecological information that we want you to attune to.
mm,
The eating healthy and eating this food or this amount of food or that food or this thing or not. No, that's the behavior. That's the behavior
yes,
that you're going to play with.
yes,
That's what you're going to explore. But
yes,
the information you're attuning to is the feeling of satiation
yes.
because you might feel satiated eating loads of sugary foods.
Oh
But if
yeah,
that feeling dissipates quickly, well,
yeah,
now you're more likely to think, oh, actually, I ate that food and I actually feel like I need to eat again an hour later. What
mm,
happens if I eat that food instead? I don't
yeah.
feel
So
as
it
satiated. Oh,
yeah,
but I don't need to eat 3 hours afterwards. So maybe I eat a little bit more. And then you can play around there.
yeah, yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah,
So instead of it, I want to be healthy, it's okay, let's focus on the feeling of satiation. In, I can't remember her name, Jeff Nippard's other half, Stephanie Bottomore, I think it is. She was a bodybuilder, female bodybuilder. She documented it on YouTube, which is why I mentioned the name. And she went through eating struggles, as most bodybuilders do. And what she did to help balance her food cravings was to just go, okay, you know what? Every time I'm hungry, I'm going to eat something, and it doesn't matter what I eat. So she went through, I think it was about 8 months of just eating anything and everything she felt like to make her feel satiated, to try and balance her body back out. And that's because it's not a switch, because bodies, dynamic bifurcations, we
yes,
attune and we have attractors. So her attractor state for eating was to not eat and to feel hungry because that's what it was to look like a bodybuilder. So she had to develop the skills of satiation.
yeah,
And she did that. And then she then started to develop the skill. So once she had blurred the lines, that's what we're doing with differential practice. We're blurring the attractor state. We're disorientating it, which is what she did. Now we can attune again. So instead of it being when we're thinking about the cloth and we've got an attractor, what she's done is just eating all over the place. The attractor slowly come back to a normal cloth, and that's going, right, we're going to go over here instead now because this is what I want, not this. But getting out of that trough to start with is difficult. So if you go from eating loads to not eating anything, you still have the attractor state of eating loads of whatever food you ate or whatever quantity of foods that you ate. That's still there. So you need to detrain that attractor state and then develop
yeah. I'm
a
not
different.
making massive changes
Mm,
to. I'm just one. I'm looking at how much energy I'm putting in so that it just keeps that balanced at a set thing for now, and that will probably change because dynamic, etc. And then it is just about slowly introducing things and seeing and changing. And yeah, I'm not going to go on a massive healthy eating binge because
but
I
that's
like
the
stuff.
thing. That is the thing that drives me nuts.
Yeah,
Healthy eating.
yeah. It does. It's. I mean, you gotta put stuff in your body because otherwise it sucks. So and you die. So you need.
I don't know whether you've seen. Have you looked at any of the Olympic athletes that have come back from Paris and any of their foods
Oh,
or anything like that?
no.
So Simone Biles,
Mhm.
do you reckon she has pizza often?
I'm going to say no
But because
in
I
the
said that, you're
context of
thinking yes. Yeah.
yeah.
So
I'm
she
gonna
had
say no.
yeah, she eats quite a lot of pizza. She eats quite a lot of cake. She likes brownies. And she likes chocolate. She eats quite a lot of crisps as well. But she also eats a lot of meat and salad. So because her body is expending so much energy, she can just put the food in. Like when you look at what are they called? Strongest man athletes. When you look at huge guys like Eddie Hall, he is eating so much food. He's eating almost, I think it's over 10,000 calories a day. He drinks an entire carton of cranberry juice for lunch, like just before lunch. Is that healthy for most people? No, hell no, it's not. But for him, it is. So
Yeah.
healthy eating is relative to the individual and the activities that they're doing. So
Yeah.
when people say healthy eating, I'm like, nope, forget that. Forget that. What is effective?
Yeah.
Again, language, ecological language. What is effective practice design? What is
Yeah.
effective practice design when it comes to nutrition? Well, I know that eating this is more effective if I'm going to do this next. I know eating this at this time before I go to sleep is less effective because I'm going to stay awake or my sleep quality is going to decrease.
Yeah.
Ecologically speaking, that is how I run my life. What is effective and ineffective when it comes to practice design?
Mic drop.
Yeah, I know it's the same thing over and over, but it's not difficult, it's not complicated. It's you don't need multiple things for this. It's just what is effective or what is more effective than something else.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at things. That's the way I see things. So you mentioned then there might have been another question about research. I recognize I've just gone into some of the stuff I'm researching now, but I mentioned earlier that I'm also doing research alongside the Trampolini stuff to stay motivated.
No, I think you kind of covered everything now.
Okay, okay. Because obviously I'm running 2 YouTube channels, doing the videos for the podcast, then running the coaching business, like trampoline
I
coaching.
would
then
assume the
research.
answer to all of these questions is practice design.
Well, yeah, that's where it comes down to because practice design is behavior. And if you want to be really, 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 really broad, you could say, I'm just managing my behavior. But the how, the what that looks like is the bits that people want to know. And they can't know because we're all different people. All I can do is give you a framework and a philosophy, which is what taking an ecological approach means.
Yeah.
And
It's
yes,
fun.
I'm writing a book about it.
I know. How's that going?
Well, it's not at the moment.
Oh,
I guess the thing I'm stuck with is what to include and what not to include. Because I could write a book on taking an ecological approach to anything, everything, because I do and have done. So it's like, do I take a personal view, like Atomic Habits and James Clear? Do I be like, hey, this is my story. This is how I managed to change this, this, and this about me. Like, do I take a personal view and be like, I'm half deaf and half blind. This is how taking an ecological approach helped me not die. Like, or I know that went really morbid very quickly, but like suicide. Apologies, obviously, for bringing that up, but that's what I went through. Like, do I take that view, or
yeah.
do I go, oh, ecological psychology has helped me coach, or has helped me as an athlete? Like, what narrative do I take? I could go full science, but I don't think that's going to be. It's not going to be wide reaching. So if I'm looking for an audience similar to Atomic Habits, I guess, with James Clear's stuff, like,
It'll probably be a story then.
well, yeah, it's got to be a story, but what story? That's the question.
Yours. Probably yours.
Because people need to relate to it. So I would imagine my story,
Yeah.
the story of the orange man, Tigger. I mean, when you think about it, Tigger jumps and bounces. Yep, yep. I mean, as
You do bounce.
yeah, exactly. I do bounce. I'm a fidget, so like I don't know whether you had this experience when you were younger, but you know when people like bounce their leg up and down?
Yep.
Actually, I'm doing it
At the
now.
moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just saw my knee. I was like, oh, I'm actually doing that. Yeah, so I do that. So it's like I'm always like bouncing and moving, obviously trampoline and bouncing and moving. So Tigger, I think, is the most associated with me. And I didn't even consider it, but obviously Tigger's orange and I'm orange, so maybe I'm Tigger. Actually,
So now your sign off has to be TTFN now.
yeah. When didn't the copyright infringement laws dropped at the beginning of this year, didn't they? Because Winnie the Pooh was and Friends was recently. I think Tigger was Jan 20, I think.
Maybe.
Yeah. I think it was Jan 24 because that means we could use a Tigger in a poster somewhere. I'm thinking trampoline marketing now. Yeah, ma. I know I'm not meant to be working because you need to designate your time and have specific work times and personal times, but life overlaps. Like,
It's so annoying. The oversimplification of how we operate in real life is annoying.
yeah, there are overlapping timescales, definitely overlapping timescales.
Can we please just remember that?
Well, at least recognize that when we're discussing things. Yeah, so the book is It's there, it's penciled in, but I got so many other things that I'm doing at the moment. It's like, let's put that on the back burner. Let's just say Morgan is filled to the brim. Lots of stuff. Yeah. Anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to ask? Because I think I'm good for today.
I'm good too.
Right. Talk next week.